welcome back to Espresso Coffee Shop. Today we're excited to present a new coffee grinder that just came out actually, and in this particular version we believe it's in its most interesting iteration. This is the new Atom. Now in this version, particular version is the W65. Now W stands for weight, and as you might have guessed, this is a grind by weight coffee grinder. There's another model that we are selling already called the Excellence, which is available in 65 and 75. And as you would imagine, 65 is for 65mm burrs, 75 for 75mm burrs. So we haven't covered the Excellence yet, so we're going to cover all of the different themes which are basically the same for this W model. The only big difference, as we mentioned, between the Excellence and the W is actually the grind by weight system. But apart from that, you have the new generation of Atom right in front of you here. We first reviewed the Atom in its first generation back in 2016. Things have changed ever since, as you will see in this video. Now, what is this coffee grinder all about? So, let's address the first and most distinguished part of this coffee grinder, which is the touchscreen. Now, if you remember, the previous versions of the Atom Specialty 65 and 75, had this small two-colored screen, and it was not even touchscreen. It was basically buttons that you used, and everything would appear on this static, quite static, I would say, touchscreen. Now here it's different because you have a proper touchscreen that you can use, as you can see. And in this particular W version, you can basically set the instead of the time, the grams of coffee. You have for one dose, for instance, here it's 7 grams. You have two. For 2 doses, for instance, 17 grams, and 3, which could be a third type of dose, like for example, bottomless, at 21 grams. Now, this comes very handy, especially for one of the primary uses that this coffee grinder used to have, which was domestic use. In fact, it's very versatile, and it's a typical thing that a domestic user would appreciate. Maybe switching from a double shot to a bottomless is something that I would really appreciate in my home. The Atom has been quite used as well in more professional environment. And this is no exception in this new version. The W version has the same basically hands-free system that you would find in the Excellence. As I said before, the only real difference is that there's a balance which is integrated automatically. And you will see now in the demonstration that this new grind by weight system from Eureka is extremely precise and most of all, extremely fast. And this for sure comes handy when you use it in a more professional environment. Other changes in this coffee grinder, well, there's a new button which kind of feels more upmarket compared to before. Another thing that feels upmarket more than the button is actually the base. Now, you would remember the base of the previous generation of the Atom and Atom Specialty versions. It was in plastic. Now it's fully in metal, and it does give this grinder a more robust kind of look. In fact, the whole frame seems more solid, you know, and for sure you'll see and you'll notice this when you use this coffee grinder in a more professional type of environment. Other changes, well, there's the plug, which is now on the back left side of the coffee grinder, and you also have a indicator here, which is new. It's the same color as in this case is matte black, and you won't be able to see it, but we'll put it in voiceover. There's this big proud logo of Eureka 1920 behind. Now, another interesting feature of this coffee grinder is this new hands-free fork. Now, in this version, if you can see it, it's going to be very difficult to capture it, but there's the all the weighing system which is behind, which you won't find, of course, in the Excellence version. But it's very, very similar the way it's done. It's a full stainless steel hands-free fork. It works very, very well. It's adjustable, of course. We have tried it with various types of portafilter and it works very, very well. And yeah, this is another really, really good characteristic of this coffee grinder. That you will see as well in our small video about the screen is that this version is yes, a grind by weight, but it has another feature that makes it equal to the Excellence. More about that later. On top, there's a familiar knob which you will recognize from the previous generation. There was not a big change in this. This is still the patented stepless micrometric system that we're used to. Eureka produces amongst the most precise stepless systems, and of course in this coffee grinder it's no exception. So yeah, here it's another characteristic that was carried on in this latest generation. Now let's explore the new characteristics from this new touchscreen. Now, as you can see, there are 3 different numbers which they represent the 3 different doses. Now, doses 1, for instance, in this case, it's 7 grams. You can, of course, instantly program it. It's very easy. You can, for instance, put it at 7.5. You have a second doses, maybe a double one. In this case, it's a bit low. It's a bit 14 grams, so we can put it easily at 16 or even 17. Now you have a third one which you can program, which is 21 grams in this case, and as I was mentioning before, this comes very handy when you're using it probably at home, because you can easily switch from a double dose to a bottomless, for instance. Now this that you have here, this circle that you have here, this is a manual dose where you can maybe just add a little bit more. For instance, if your second dose has 17 grams and you want 18, you can manually add by pressing this button here. Now, this is the main menu that you're always going to see. What do we have in the back menu? Now, you have some partial counters which are going to count for each type of doses how many kilograms until now of coffee you've actually grinded. You have the possibility to put a password. This comes handy, for instance, when you use it more in a commercial type of environment. You can use it if you want. And here there's more information on the model and the firmware. Now, if we go back and we go to, there's another menu that you can access. And this menu is for some other type of settings. For example, the brightness, you can put it higher or lower. Now, if we continue, we have also a mode where you can select those every time. So this mode, if we turn it on, before it was off, basically it says that if you put in the portafilter, it won't start grinding unless you touch the screen. If you put it off, as it was before, you would put the portafilter underneath and the coffee grinder would start grinding every time on its own. Now, you can choose even this mode. Now, this mode is probably the most interesting one, at least for me, because this, despite being grind by weight version, it can become basically a timed version. Now, right now, there's the grind by weight version, and if you put it off the grind by weight, you're going to put automatically on the grinding by time. Now, if we go back to the main menu, you'll see that now it's gonna be in green, the light is gonna be green, and the doses is gonna be in seconds. So basically, what you have right now is an Atom Excellence 65 rather than an Atom W65. I think that this is a very nice feature because you're probably only gonna use this coffee grinder as a grind by weight, since you have spent more money for a grind by weight version. But it's cool to know that you can also select a mode that is going to let you use seconds if you really want to use that. So going back to the menu, after this, we have a burr maintenance. You can basically set an alert when the burrs reach their end of cycle, which is another great feature. And then, of course, you have the languages. You can select different type of languages depending on the country and the language that you speak. And of course, you have the standby mode, where you can basically decide when the coffee grinder will go on a standby. And then finally, you have the calibration. So there it is. This was a small look at the new Atom in this W65 version. As I was mentioning before, we have available even the W75 version, which is the same version with 75mm burrs instead of 65. Or if you prefer the more classic timed version, we have the Excellence 65 and 75 available as well in our website. So thank you for checking out. If you really like this video, please put like and subscribe to our channel. It will help us to make more and more of these contents. See you at the next video.